Up to this part, we defined some background information in P6. We talked about OBS, EPS, calendars, and resource dictionary. Now we are ready to create our project. In this part, I will explain you how to do this. At the end of the previous part, I closed all tabs. For this reason, first of all, I will show you how to open the project screen again. There are two options. Either select projects from enterprise menu or select projects icon from the directory bar. Now we have the project screen back. We also have a details window for the projects, but there are too much detail here, and at this level it is not suitable to explain all of these items. Basically, we only need general tab for project ID and name, date tab for start, finish, and data date, and defaults tab for project calendar and activity ID structure. Here you can see the activity ID structure. There are also some default options in settings and calculations. Please do not change anything here. It may affect the calculation logic of P6. Now, before creating a new project, I will show you how to open the projects in the database. In project screen, you can right-click to a project and select Open Project, or from File and Open, you can open a project either with the Open button here or with a double click on the project. And it directs you to the activities screen, as you can see here. In the previous screen, in File and Open, you can also see the users of the project. This is very important if you have a shared database. While you are working on a project, you can check other users working on the same project with you. For example, if the activities in your project is suddenly deleted, you can check who is deleting your activities from this list. However, as your database SQLite is an individual database, it is not possible to see a name here other than you. So it is not important for you, but it is a useful option if you are using the P6 with multiple people. So I'm going to close it. If you want to open more than one project, let's do this in the project screen. Select some projects here with the control button in your keyboard. Right click and open these projects. In activities screen, you can see the activities of these projects. So you see that there are 3 projects here and you can see their activities by expanding and collapsing the projects. You can also follow these projects at the top of the screen. As I mentioned, you can work with multiple projects in P6. For example, you can assign a relationship between the activities of different projects. So in P6, it is possible to manage projects together, which is called as program management. Let's return to project screen. Here, you can also see the opened projects with the opened folders icon. So this is an open project and this is a closed project. If you want to open this project in addition to other projects, when you select Open Project, you see that other projects are closed and it only opened this project. So you need to select all related projects if you want to open them together. Also, If you right-click to an EPS node, remember that this was a node for the enterprise project structure. When you select Open Project here, it opens all projects under this node, as you can see here. And if you want to close all of your projects, from File, select Close All. It directs you to the project screen. After learning the opening options, now we can continue with creating a new project. For this purpose, select File and New. Again, we have a wizard here. First of all, it asks to select an EPS. In the class exercise 5, the EPS is given as residential buildings. So click here and select the residential buildings from the list that we created for the EPS. Select this one. Now, this is our EPS. It means that the new project will be created under this node. Select Next. Now we are going to write an ID and name for our project. Let's say ID is EBP and the name is example building project. Select Next. Here you should select the planned start date of your project, which is 1st of October according to our exercise. Please do not write anything to must finish by part. It may affect your results. Remember that in critical path methods, we make forward pass calculations to find early dates. Then we continue with backward pass calculations to find late dates. And the difference between the late and early dates gives the total float value for each activity. Please also remember that when we start the backward pass calculations, we use the finish date that we find at the end of the forward pass calculations. P6 does the same thing as well. However, if you select a date for must finish by, then P6 starts backward pass calculations with this date. When this is the case, you may get some negative float values, or all of your activities may have float values greater than 0. If you don't want to get a wrong critical path, please leave this part empty. It is very important. In practice, planners write the contractual finish date here, but they don't do this at the first time. Initially, they do not select a must finish by date here, and they try to develop a schedule in which the finish date complies with the contract. When the schedule is approved by the owner, then they write the finish date here. By this way, must finish by does not make any difference in the critical path at the beginning. However, during the update period, P6 takes this date as the target finish date and performs backward pass accordingly. So this helps to analyze the delays in the project. For example, if you find the total float value in the critical path as -30 during the update period, it means that you have 30 days delay in your project. So as a summary, the must finish by is important for updating issues, but in your turn project, you must not write anything here. Then we continue with selecting the responsible manager of our project. You see, this is the reason why we arranged the EPS and OBS before the project, because P6 asks you these items before creating your projects. Here, responsible manager is already given as construction manager. Remember that in EPS part, we selected the responsible manager of residential buildings as construction manager. Since we selected the EPS of this project as residential buildings, here we have construction manager. But if you want, you can change it after removing the filter here. So you can see our OBS structure. In the class exercise, it is given as the construction manager, so I will not change it. And I will select construction manager, and I will continue with next. Do not change this part. It is related to the unit price calculations. So select next. And congratulations, your project is ready. Let me click finish here. So you can see that example building project is under the residential buildings node, and the project is opened, as you can see in this folder. Okay, when you look at the class exercise 5, we select the EPS name, we selected the project start date, and we assigned a responsible manager. But we didn't select the project calendar yet. Because the wizard didn't ask the calendar of the project. The reason is that P6 directly assumes default calendar as the project calendar. Now I will show you how to change the calendar of this project. To do this, you should select your project in the project screen. It is very important to select the right project. Otherwise, you may change the calendar of a different project. Then, from Defaults tab in the Details window, you can change your calendar. You see that this is the default calendar in P6. Remember that I showed you default calendar option while we are just discussing the calendars. Let me remind you. In calendars, you see that the default calendar is corporate standard full-time. For this reason, we have the corporate standard full-time here. To change it, click here and select the class exercise from the global calendars. Now we change the calendar in our project. It is very, very important to do this before creating the activities in the project. If you do this after creating your activities, your previous activities will not be affected from this change. It only affects the new activities. So if this is the case, you should change the calendars of previous activities manually. And it could be time consuming. I will show you how to change the activity calendars when we discuss the activities. So as a result, please be very careful about selecting your project calendar at this stage. In addition, if you make a mistake in your date selection, you can fix it in the Dates tab. For example, if you select a must finish by, you can delete it here, or you can change your project planned start date. I will talk about this data date later. Also, in the General tab, you can change the ID name and responsible manager of your project as well. And if you want to change the EPS of the project, you can simply use these cut and paste options in the command bar. For example, you can paste your project under ABC construction, and you can put it to the residential buildings again. Okay, it is the end of this part, and thank you for your attention. In the next part, we will continue with creating a work breakdown structure for this project.